couldn't help being fascinated to hear the story about the slaughterhouse and forward learning for mass production, because recently I was in contact with some people in the beef industry, and I know that one of their role models is the Toyota plant in Wales. So sometimes these things repeat. So it's interesting, the cycle between the two different industries. I want to talk about the CEO story. So I want to talk about, I want to address my comments to Irish SMEs in particular, and how design is relevant to them. And I want to talk about a case history of a company that we're working with, not in Texas, but in Utah. The company is called Cricut, and the CEO of this company is a man called Ashish Arora. I want to talk about it because it's a story partly of success, but it's also a story of a turnaround. This is a guy who's involved in applying design and creativity to a company that is evolving from a relatively difficult situation to an interesting evolution of a product. And he's applying design and creativity in exactly the way that we've been talking about this morning. And I think he's been quite successful. And I want to talk about the choices that Ashish is making, how he chooses to use design, what he chooses to do and what he doesn't do, and how that's interesting for his company. So the company makes Cricut cutting machines. They are very similar, probably first cousins to things like, you're all familiar with 3D printing and desktop CNC and products like that. These are products that are very interesting in that they enable people and consumers to make things in their home, and in doing so, the engagement with the product is completely different to otherwise would be the case. So the consumer is using the product, has a completely different material relationship with the products that they use. Instead of purchasing something, you make something in your home. And in doing that, this sense of, I made it for myself, completely changes the purchasing proposition, and it completely changes the emotional engagement between the consumer and the product. So I'll just show a quick video. It's basically a $200 machine, mainly aimed at female users. I just show a quick video because it explains the context of the project. This is the next of the generation of Cricut Explorer products. So we're looking at the end of the process. I'm just going to go back to the beginning. When Ashish joined the company, this is 3 years ago. This was the starting point. The product was as clunky as could possibly be. The company had 1,000 trailer loads of inventory to get rid of. It was on its third unsuccessful product. It was at war partly with its customers and partly with its retailers. The little items on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, you see here are $60 dongles that contain the media needed to cut the products. So in spite of all of this problem, all of these problems associated with the product, there existed a very loyal tribe of consumers who understood how to operate this bewildering machine, and they knew how to use it, and were actually making money making booklets and crib sheets and teaching other people how to use the product. So this tribe of loyal consumers emerged in spite of the company's engineering almost preventing them from making product in the first place. So I asked Ashish to remind me why it was that he took this CEO position. He'd come from one of our other clients who was a consumer electronics company with very successful products, particularly in the areas where there's a lot of passion, like gaming products. But he said that he could think of no other company than this where the consumer would be so emotionally connected with the media that the product could produce. And that if he could capture that passion for the product and passion for crafting and making things that people were so obviously connecting with, and if he could be fourth time lucky, or if he could make cricket fourth time lucky with a better machine, that if he could do those two things as a CEO, this would be a way in which he could harness creativity and harness design to make a successful product. So I think there's been IDEO have explained and have pioneered this process of really understanding the user and visiting the user in situ and understanding what it is that is about. And this is exactly the kind of process that we followed. Understanding the user by going into their homes, by spending time with them, by watching them doing the products. And from that, little small secrets emerge, little things that are unexpected, unplanned. You can't, you imagine somebody operating in a big kind of generous space in their home until you realize they're working in a very small kitchen table in their home, and they need to make a product that's not unlike, we need to make something that's not unlike a sewing machine, that we can wrap it up and put it in a box. It needs to be robust, it needs to be put away, we need to be able to take it out and use it. And we also discovered that we could make discovery points in the product. So sometimes the things the products need can be quite simple, little details that make all the difference. And these can be revealed from just that point that has been made about listening carefully to the consumer, observing what they're not saying, and observing what are the issues that really make a product successful. So from that experience of seeing people, working with people and working in their homes and finding out exactly what it is, our designers and researchers are able to put together a kind of menu of possibilities. And we like to make these things discoveries so that when you use the product, you find something that you didn't realize you needed until you were actually going to do it. Like a shelf underneath the product where you can put the cutting mat, or little places to hide the tools, and just general little attention to detail. And in doing that, it communicates to the consumer not just that the brand that they're solving a problem, but also communicates that the person who's designed this product is somehow connected with me, that the brand that I'm purchasing from is connected with me. So you build loyalty and a connection between the use of the product and the people who make it in the first place. And obviously, the other big thing we were able to do you can remember that extremely difficult combination of buttons, is move the entire interface of the product away from the machine itself and allow the user to concentrate on using the media. So the whole thing about a product like this is it's all about the application of the media. It's all about the creativity that the consumer can do, what they can do with the product, and what the potential of that creative act is. So the interface becomes the media that the users are familiar with, the iPad, your laptop, or whatever it is that you need to apply these creative materials on. So I think that the key point that Ashish also led to in developing his process was, how do I move from the traditional crafter who made this product to the future of the company? And the future of the company for cricket is users of a completely different demographic. So there'll be a staged process in understanding what are the users of tomorrow like, what are the millennial generation going to need, and how can they have a faster, more immediate use of the product? How can they have a more immediate application of their product? What does that mean? What is the purchasing decision going to be like? How is that going to be different? And how is that going to change the products of the future? So this is very much where the company is going and where Ashish has been able to take the company. I would mention that one of the key things that he did that I think was extremely important was, in terms of immersing himself with the consumers that he was studying, was that he didn't just do it. He didn't just delegate this to other people in his team, but he actually took this on his own hands. He befriended people on Twitter, on Facebook. He went all around the United States meeting people, and generally created an atmosphere and a culture within cricket where everybody was empowered to find out what a 360-degree user experience would be like. So this meant so everybody from the CFO to the receptionist would be tasked with understanding this. For example, I know that the people who are involved in customer care were encouraged to spend not less time on the phone, but more time on the phone, finding out exactly what it was that people wanted. So I think this has been, I think Ashish has done a couple of things significantly well that are important. I think he made the key decision to bet on the goodwill of the consumer, to understand what it was that they needed and to completely immerse himself in that area and encourage his team to do exactly the same. And then he also bet on the product. So limited resources, limited ability to develop the brand, but by concentrating on the product and what the product could do, he created a very logical point from which the brand could be developed. And I think he did something else which I think was equally important, and that is that by connecting with the power of the product to enable people to be creative, he invested in that, and he made that part of the culture of the company. So the company moved from being an engineering company that made a machine to being a company that truly understood the power of creativity and the emotional connection that would have with the customer and the product. He also did something else that I think is very important for a CEO of a relatively small company, and that is to have patience and to take a long-term view. So to have a number of sequential developments of the product, not just do one thing, but one of the decisions that he made was, because the software wasn't quite right, to develop that and perfect that so that he delayed the launch of the first product. So 6 months later, we had a product that was exactly right because of that delay. So allowing the development to happen in a number of stages is both smart and also helps to educate the consumer and helps you move to the demographic that's your long-term goal. One of the things he didn't do that maybe is unusual for a CEO is that he didn't trust his gut. And I think the benefits for that were that what he did do was consult widely, both with consumers but also with other people on his team. And I think he used his charisma to get others to do extremely difficult work. I know we couldn't possibly have built the level of precision in the machine that was required. It has to be able to cut between 2 sheets of sellotape, and he wouldn't been unable to do that without pushing the engineering team and pushing the manufacturer to be able to meet that level of quality. He also was very good at building a small internal team, believing that the quality of that team and the ability of that team to work well together mattered, and that big teams didn't necessarily succeed, but small teams could. And I think he also, another thing that he got right was that he also built a very tight network of external partners and managed to get both the external partner teams, whoever they might be, work extremely well with his internal teams. So for me, that's a summary of a CEO applying design in action and using design really well for a successful product. If anybody wants to know more about the product, first of all, it's been significantly successful. Launched on HSN network and been extremely well received. Very high level of sales based on it, and it's achieved design awards, the Good Design Award in the United States, IF Award and IDI Award here in Ireland. And there's more about the product on our website if anybody's interested. Thank you very much.